Okay then, so now we have our summary of the six seals. We've got the false Christ, the sword, famine and plague, which are the agents of God's wrath, and we have the martyrs who are suffering in tribulation, then the sun and moon change, and we have the day of the Lord, which will follow. Okay, and it's interesting to compare this with the Olivet Discourse as we look at Matthew 24 and 25. This was a question, what is the sign of the end of the age and of your second coming? And the word there is parousia. Okay, we'll talk about the significance of that later, or if you look at the word studies. First of all, Jesus warned about false Christs and prophets, and we have a match. You see here the white horse, the false Christ. Then he warned about wars and rumours of wars. Behold, we have a match for the second horse. Then he warned about famines, and behold, we have a match. And lastly, he warned about pestilence. Okay, and behold, we have a match. Okay, so we have the agents of God's wrath. This is not the day of wrath, which is the day of the Lord, but this is the agents of God's wrath. Remember in Zechariah 1, they roam the earth and always have done. Romans 1 talks about the wrath of God being revealed. So that was 2,000 years ago. John 3:18 says that God's wrath dwells upon those who do not believe. And so God's wrath is ever present, but it's only in measured amounts. During the day of wrath, he will pour it out in full measure. But for the time being, it's just a measured amount. Okay. But having said that, of course, if he wipes out a quarter of the Earth's population, I think that's pretty severe, but it's not as severe as you see later on in the trumpets and bowls. Okay. What's interesting also here is that Jesus warned about earthquakes in Matthew 24. We see an earthquake in the sixth seal, but as such, it's not in sequence here. So it's just interesting. Jesus in Matthew 24 warned about earthquakes. The sixth seal is just one earthquake. Okay, but we see later on that there are more earthquakes, and it confirms that Matthew 24 is a summary of the whole sequence. Okay, what is significant now is that we have the change. In Matthew 24 he talked about persecution. They will hand you over, and he talks about the abomination that causes desolation, which is associated with the man of sin, from Daniel. Most people call him the Antichrist, but I prefer the term man of sin. And it says there that then there will be great tribulation. He also warned about false prophets, talking about a secret coming. This is all part of the persecution. And of course we have the fifth seal, the martyrs, who are dying in tribulation and waiting for more to be added to them. All right. Then in Matthew 24:29 it says post-tribulation, after the tribulation, that the sun and moon would change. And we see the sun and moon, of course, as a significant sign in the sixth seal. Okay, so now we have a sequence of events that follows that is called the day of the Lord. It's during the day of the Lord when he pours out his wrath. Okay, and you have the second coming, the parousia, and you also have the gathering of the elect, which is the resurrection and rapture. Matthew talks about them being drawn from the ends of heaven. Mark mentions the ends of earth, and so you've got those who have died in Christ who are being resurrected, they're drawn from heaven, and those who are alive and remain until the parousia, I'm quoting 1 Thessalonians there, we remain until the parousia and are alive until that point, we are raptured, we are drawn from the earth. That is then followed in Matthew 24 by the judgment. One is taken and one is left. That's not talking about the rapture in my opinion. It's talking about those who are taken and left. Remember that it's the unsaved who were taken and the saved who are left. Noah was the one who was left because the meek inherit the earth. You want to be left behind. By the way, it's ironic that those films are called Left Behind based on that, but actually it's the unsaved who are taken. And so therefore, it's a case of judgment. But that's separate from the rapture, which is called the gathering, where he pulls everybody together who's ever been a believer, dead or alive. Okay, but let's move on.